you see, your dreams can come true if you have the balls to get up there with Ronnie Hawkins in your bikini top.
It's true. Were there any drugs involved?
Well,
Tell me why, oh why it feels so right. It feels so right to be alone. Whether day or night, rain or shine, it feels so right to be alone.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Arlene is Alone. And this time I'm alone with Jeanne Beker, who is honestly such an iconic Canadian, and it's just honestly, Jeanne, you make me smile every time I see you. I love you so much. And I'm here with her book as well, which she brought me a copy of. Thank you for that, her new book. And, I just happened to open up the page to where Jeannie's dancing on stage in her bra, impromptu with Ronnie Hawkins.
that was a bikini top bra.
It was looks like a bra to me, but it's like she's like, you were so damn sexy. You still are, but look at you then.
Dancing Queen, 1969. And I had the opportunity to get up on stage at Varsity Stadium in Toronto for this big Toronto pop festival that Ronnie performed at. I was just in the audience, shaking my pom-poms to the Bo Diddley. He was doing that song, Hey Bo Diddley, and I just thought it was so cool, and I was up there going, and all of a sudden it was he's pointing to me. It's hey, you, come on up. And I was like, what? I was pretty close to the stage. It's who, me? And the cops that were there, lifted me up on the stage, and I just started boogieing my brains out. Listen, at that age and stage of life, all I wanted to do was be famous. I know that sounds so shallow.
No,
I did want to be a great actress too, but
you are famous.
Well, you see, your dreams can come true if you have the balls to get up there with Ronnie Hawkins in your bikini top.
It's true. Were there any drugs involved?
Well,
when you think about those years, we're about the same age. I'm 68. I think you're
73.
Okay, we're very close in age, right? I think people have this view that it was we were kind of boring and we lived these very sheltered lives and we didn't do much. But tell me about what was your dating life like in those days?
Oh,
let's
baby. I was, listen, I didn't really have, I wasn't one of those girls that had a serious boyfriend in high school. I was into a lot of different people.
Yes.
And it was a wonderful education. I don't regret any of it. But listen, it was the 60s.
Yeah.
It was an incredible time.
So by the time I was 19, I was married. You were, how old were you?
Well, I married a couple of times. The first time I married was to a guy that I had actually known from high school. And we started going out when, I guess I was about 19.
Yeah.
And then we got married when I was 23 in 1975. A great love affair. He was very brilliant and very talented and very cute and, hair down to his shoulders. And he was a great, great, great romantic. So, and wrote me poetry. And he's just a beautiful, brilliant guy. I'm going to cry thinking about it. No, great. But when you get married when you're that young, so we got married 1975, moved to St. John's, Newfoundland the next day, which was he got a fellowship to do his postgraduate folklore degree at Memorial University. And I had just returned from Paris as a mime artist. So I thought, well, where am I going to go and mime my way through life? St. John's, Newfoundland sounded like a good idea. I mean, I got there. It was Ma, you look some pale, my dear.
Buskers in St. John's.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was I don't think they really got me. But that was okay because he was there in academia and, doing his thing. I thought, I know a lot about the arts. I studied acting in New York and I studied mime in Paris. And there's such a vibrant artistic scene going on here, and no one's really reporting on it. Now, the CBC is all about reporting on the arts. Then it wasn't. They were talking about the oil refineries and the fisheries and consumer programming. And so I knocked on the door of CBC Radio, and I told them who I was, and I said, I really think you need someone to report on the great, vibrant art scene going on in this town, and I pitched myself. And it just so happened there was a cute young guy who had just taken over the Consumers show, Radio Noon show, Johnny Dalton. And I don't know, I think he must have had the hots for me. I don't know, Johnny, if you're watching. At any rate, he hired me to report on the arts through a consumer's lens, because that was his mandate. He was doing a consumer show. So I had to say, is it worth it to spend $5 on that album, or $10 on that theater ticket,
Right.
Anyway, so that launched my career in media.
And no
it was
experience in
wonderful.
that. You just
like taught myself, and then moved back here in 1978 because my husband at the time we just got sick and tired of talking to those toothless old fiddlers around the bay for his folklore thesis, and thought he wanted to do his doctoral thesis in urban folklore. So he wanted to move to the big city and talk to cab drivers and strippers and cocktail waitresses, instead of the old fishermen and the fiddle players. So I said, okay, great, I'm ready. And I have, this arsenal of tapes under my arm, and I knocked on every radio station door. So Chum hired me as a good news girl. So I did all these, features, lifestyle features, about 17 or 18 of them a week, and did everything myself, cut my own tape and book my guests and everything, and produced the thing, did these little Chum reports. J.D. Roberts, now John Roberts of Fox News, was the boss jock at the time. Yeah. And they got me and J.D. to go over to City TV to host this groundbreaking show called The New Music, which was the forerunner of Much Music. But right around then, me and my guy kind of grew apart. It was just like, he wanted to go back to Newfoundland to do more stuff. They offered him a position as a professor, and I'm thinking, okay, this sounds great, you should go, but I'm not going anywhere. This is good. I'm realizing my dreams.
You just did you not fell out of love, but you just drifted apart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved him, but, and I hate to say this, because this is what my second husband said to me when he told me he was leaving me. I loved him, but I wasn't in love with him, by that, because stuff happens. But we had this deal where it was just too cruel to, cut him off like that, or for him to leave me forever. And I wasn't totally sure I wanted him to leave me forever, because I did love the guy. Yeah. And it was like, you know what, you go to Newfoundland, I'll stay in Toronto, and we'll just date other people. We'll kind of have an open relationship.
You're still married.
Yeah, we're still married.
We're
going to have an open relationship. Yeah, this is like a 19...
If you want to know if Jeanne needs a kick-ass woman who's like a trailblazer, that should tell you everything right there.
I never even saw it that way, but you're right. Ahead of my time.
Yeah. You were.
So the late 70s, so we certainly, had an open relationship. And damn, the first guy I dated was this really cute all-night DJ at 1050 Chum, Bob McGee, who I ended up marrying after my first husband and I got
Wait a minute,
divorced.
So you're having you're married.
Yeah.
You're dating
married, but with this agreement that we could see others.
You meet Bob McGee.
Yeah.
And then
not his real name, but that's what he called himself on the air.
And then you say to your husband, and
that was not
he wasn't
good.
Ready for that?
No, he wasn't happy about that. That was a bit of a dark period, but made it through that, and married Bob McGee.
Yeah.
And we had 2 gorgeous kids.
You do have beautiful.
And it was like a mad, passionate love affair, and I was wild about him. And about 12 years into our marriage, he told me he didn't want to be married anymore. So that hit me like a Mack truck, because I thought I had it all.
Yeah.
I had 2 kids, 2 cats, 2 cars, 2 boats, 2 homes, the place in Muskoka and the place in the city. And he was, a very successful disc jockey until like a year before he broke up with me. He lost his job. So that was sort
maybe that impacted.
Yeah. Trust me. This was a classic midlife crisis thing for him, for sure. He just sort of went off the rails, I think, But he just told me he didn't want to be married anymore, and I was devastated. And blamed, the fashion business, that stupid, shallow world that I had subscribed to.
You blamed him?
Yeah, I blamed the fashion. Yeah, because I thought, it's probably because of this crazy career of mine that he just doesn't want to be with me anymore. Like I turned into some kind of a monster. It was a bad time for me, a very bad time. I was like, because he told me he was leaving and moved out like 2 weeks later.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't, I was like, oh, like, can we go for counseling? Can we get, like, he was absolutely adamant about not wanting to do that. And he just moved out. You know, then I found out years later that, you know, you must be, I said, you must be having an affair. Oh, absolutely not, I wouldn't do that. But then I found out that he had been having a thing with a much younger woman for 3.5 years, and I guess I was so busy I didn't notice.
Bob McGee.
No, he's a sweetie. I don't like.
He's a sweetie, but I'm just kidding.
But he went off the rails. Okay, like I accepted it. I understood it. It's like, you know, people do what they do, whatever. That's what happened, and then I was alone. Feeling especially alone because I was, you know, the girls really kind of stayed with me. So I was like raising these 2 girls, and I had this monstrous career, and I had to keep all that up, and it was tough. But, you know, listen, and then I had a few other relationships like that were all wonderful in their own way. Some of them, you know, a little more aggravating than others, but some people I think just really like the idea of being with someone and having a partner, and I totally understand people that don't need it and don't want it, and I kind of sometimes envy them because it's maybe easier.
Maybe.
But,
I mean, I find it interesting that in your second marriage, when you said, you know, he left and you immediately went to, it's my fault. It's
immediately.
Right?
Because he told me it was.
Right, and you believed it.
I absolutely believed it.
Yeah.
Until I realized what was really going on, and then it was like, it's not my fault at all. It's his fault. Yeah. And that was very liberating.
But I do find it interesting that a lot of women tend to go to right away that it's even when they don't say, even when the partner doesn't say it's your fault, they automatically think it is their fault, and they take the responsibility on.
Yeah, I guess we're just responsible beings by nature, maybe. Or I don't know. My mom always used to say to me, "It's not good to be alone. Like, don't be." You know, she always had this fear of being alone. Like when she woke up after her entire family had been decimated in the Holocaust. They had suffocated in an underground bunker, and she was the sole survivor. And she had been having a clandestine relationship with my dad, who was also from that small little town in Poland. He deserted the army, you know, and came back to the village to try and look for her to see if she still, you know, was alive. And he found her, and he just scooped her up, and he was her personal hero. He just totally rescued her, and they were on the run together the whole time, escaped the Nazis, escaped going to a concentration camp, hiding in people's barns and bunkers and holes in the ground for months on end. And my mom really appreciated that, and she saw how much easier it was to be with someone, to have someone there to help you and support you. And so I kind of subscribed to that. I kind of wanted that, you know. I always wanted the perfect relationship. I mean, I don't know if really there is such a thing as a perfect relationship. You know, the older you get, maybe the less idealistic you become.
But so I didn't know that you were such a serial dater. Like, I knew you'd had relationships, but I didn't know that you need those relationships, that's something that's important to you. I remember sitting with you at my cottage. You remember this?
Yeah.
You were 63 years old, so it would have been 10 years ago now.
Well, then that, my dear, would have been the year that I met
It was right
Ian,
before
right before.
Right before.
So 2015.
Yeah, and you told me, we were sitting there, I'll never forget this as long as I live. Because I'm 5 years younger than you, so I'm in my 58, I guess, and you're 63, and we're sitting there, and you looked at me and said, you know, I really want to be with somebody, and I don't know at my age if I'll ever find somebody. And I remember looking at you and saying, Jeannie, if you want to find somebody, you will find somebody. Yeah. And within like just a short period of time, suddenly you were dating Ian. So how did that transpire?
Well, 2 weeks after my mom died, I had to go to the McMichael Gallery for their gorgeous annual fundraiser called the Moonlight Gala.
Yeah.
I was an honorary patron. I really didn't want to go because my mom had just died. I didn't have a date. I thought I got to put on a little black dress again. And so I had a little, flute of bubbly or something, and I'm like sort of almost crying into my champagne glass when I noticed this really cute kind of silver fox guy walking back and forth, kind of checking me out. And then our eyes locked. I thought, oh, and then he made a beeline, came right up to me, and he stuck his hand out. He goes, hi, my name's Ian McInnes, and I'm on the foundation board of the McMichael Gallery, and I just want to congratulate you for always having kept yourself so relevant. And I went, damn, is that the sexiest thing that you can say to a woman of a certain age, isn't it? Like, that's all we want to be, is relevant. I mean, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a wonderful thing that happened. I honestly believe that my late mom orchestrated that.
Yeah.
And I also feel it happened at a time when I did kind of make a conscious decision that, okay, my mom's gone, and I'm just not going to be forlorn about my life. If I don't meet someone, it's okay too, because I do have this pretty fabulous life, and I'm just going to live my life. And it's almost the second I came to that realization was when Ian walked into my life.
That's crazy. Like, I mean, so 63, find love again. It's been 10 years.
And honestly, not to compare relationships, because maybe you shouldn't, but because I'm at the age that I'm at, and I know what I want and need from a relationship, it's just the best.
Yeah,
it's
because
really
because you're, like you say, you know who you are, and you're not willing to, like, you can compromise on the things that don't matter to you, but you also know what you won't compromise on. Maybe that's
absolutely,
that's the difference. If for the people that are watching the show, and because when I look at the comments, there's women and men of all ages and stages, but I think in particular when you're over 60, there is this sense that you no longer are going, either your sex drive's gone, or you're not sexual anymore, or you're not attractive anymore, or what are the odds? Because like I was out for dinner last night, and my with a very good friend, and he said, how come you're not with somebody? And I went right away to this very self-deprecating place. And I went, like, who wants to date somebody like me? Like, who wants to date somebody my age? I said, nobody. And he said, what has your age got to do with it? And I thought, well, he's right. But it's the first thing I thought of. I'm doing this show about being single. It's the first thing I thought about was it was because I wasn't attractive to somebody. And that's just not why I'm alone. Like, I'm choosing to be alone. But it's funny how we, over 60, women in particular, I think, feel very much like we're not worth anything.
wow. I don't feel that. I never felt that.
Clearly not.
No, I don't feel that.
Clearly
I
not.
honestly tell you that I think my 60, and I don't want to say this because I think I'm in my 70s now, and it better get better, and it will get better. It'll be better in different ways. But the 60s was the best decade.
Yeah.
It was the absolute best decade for me.
Yeah.
Then I turned 70 and was diagnosed with cancer a couple weeks later. So that wasn't so good, but I had this incredible guy there to really support me.
That's true.
And be with me. And that was, wow.
Yeah. Jeanne, it made me think of something, though, when you said that. Like, at 70, you get diagnosed with cancer, and you have a partner who is there for you and is supportive of you. There might be people watching this show who are sick and who have been diagnosed with cancer or are dealing with stress in their life, that is an illness, and who don't have that person with them. What advice do you have for them in terms of how they might be able to deal with that in their lives? Because it can be very lonely when you're trying to deal with illness.
But I do honestly believe that none of us are really alone. I mean, we're really not alone. I mean, it's all in our perception. For me, very important to be open and share our stories and be. I have a lot of friends that just don't want to share any of that stuff. And I actually had a very dear, close friend of mine who was diagnosed with breast cancer the year before I was, and she doesn't have a partner, and it was during COVID, and she had to really go through it alone. She didn't even want to tell her aging parents because they'd worry too much, and she didn't want to tell most of her friends or anyone she worked with. But I knew, and I was there every day, on the phone with her, kind of holding her hand and just thinking, oh, what a burden this is. When you can open up, because there is such a great community out there. There's so many wonderful support groups out there. Wellspring, for one, a wonderful organization that I've done some work with. There are just so many people out there that are willing to share and talk with it and help you, but you can't bury it too deeply, or no one will even know where to find you. The first day I sat in the chemo chair, I announced it on Instagram, and overnight my following doubled, and the stories on the messages and the comments that came flooding back to me about what people were going through too. All of a sudden it was like, wow, because even if you have a partner, when you're going through a cancer journey, it's inevitable that you are going to feel alone. That's sort of the nature of it. Everyone's journey is so different. But if you see that there are other people that have made it through, and if you know there are other people that might be going through what you're going through, it's a heart-swelling kind of feeling, and you just realize it's just part of the human condition. You're not alone, and that was totally the wind beneath my wings, the support that I got from people that were following me. It was
I love that. I love that advice to people, because one of the things that I feel like I am attracted to in the people that I admire, like yourself, and I call friends, is that a willingness to be vulnerable and to say what it is that you feel and not fear the repercussion of judgment. And the advice you just given to people who, if you are going through an illness, and I think both Jeannie and I would say, you're not alone.
It's a wonderful feeling. My cancer journey was so filled with silver linings, and one of the biggest gifts I think it gave me was that it restored my faith in humanity. Like, it made me realize that, people are caring and compassionate. Now, not all people, there's some creeps out there, but for the most part, like, if you just put yourself out there, and like you say, you have to get over yourself and not be afraid of appearing vulnerable, because I think that's one of the best things that you can appear to be in this day and age.
I think it's more that you've turned into this compassionate human who gives back to everybody. And you've done that through your breast cancer journey. You've done that through your career. You've done that in so many ways. So, it'll make me cry.
Yeah, made me cry too. Yeah. But, again, I just thank my late great parents for instilling those kinds of values in me. And growing up as a kid of Holocaust survivors, constantly hearing stories about the war and what they had to go through and the loss and the tragedy of it all. Really, I resented it as a little kid. I would hide under my bed because I didn't want to hear any more war stories. And for them, it was like therapeutic. They wouldn't go to a shrink. It wasn't the thing to do back in the day. So they would just talk to me and my sister about it incessantly. And now I think I'm so grateful that they did. Like, a lot of Holocaust survivors don't want to talk about it. They don't want to revisit that. But for my parents, they talked about it so much that it gave me an understanding of the world in a crazy kind of way,
Made you grateful.
And it made me, definitely made me who I am today, and made me realize that, I'm a survivor. Yeah. So whether I've got a relationship or whether I don't, God forbid, I hope, Ian, you never leave me, but, God forbid, like, if he ever did, or, anything's possible, I feel solid. You can survive. Yeah. Like, you really, I think anybody can survive just about anything. Yeah. And if you can't change a situation, you change your mind. I think we all have the power to do that. Yeah. And it's all, perspective.
I don't think I have anything more to add to that. I'm just grateful for you, and I hope you got, like, I'm going to cry, so I'm going to stop talking. Oh. But Arlene is Alone with Jeanne Beker. It's as good as it gets. It's as honest a conversation as you can have. And I'm grateful for the time you spent with me, Jeanne, so thank you.
No, love you to bits,
Yeah,
Arlene.
love
Thank you
right back.
so much.
Yeah, I've got great pictures of her dancing on the floor at my cottage. If you ever really want
Oh, I want to see those.
great pictures of Jeanne. She's a great dancer. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Arlene is Alone, without the tears.
Tell me why, oh why it feels